Welcome to the Aligned and Magnetic Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Ashley, intuitive business coach certified by the International Coaching Federation, and they call me the money mindset and manifestation queen. I take a spiritual and practical approach that's backed by neuroscience to help you make your vision a reality, but more importantly, doing it in a way that lights you the fuck up. If you're ready to create an aligned, magnetic, and profitable business so you can live a life and do the work you are absolutely in love with, you're in the right place. Get ready to hear the powerful questions and raw lessons that you need to create success your way. Thank you so much for being here. Let's dive in. Hey, loves. Welcome back to another episode of the Aligned and Magnetic Podcast. I'm really excited for today's episode because I just finished mapping out my vision for Q3, and I want to share this hack with you that I have learned on my journey of business, of manifesting exactly what I want. And I would say that this literally changed the game. Now, with anything I talk about on this podcast, remember that we are all uniquely different. So something that works for me might not necessarily work for you, but I always recommend trying it out, feeling it out, see what happens. My office is still super echoey because we just have not had the chance to, I guess, get some more furniture in here, / I don't really know what the vision is for the office. So piece by piece, it's coming together, but I can't really wait on putting out episodes just because my office isn't done yet. So here we are. Now, before we get into this, I want to preface that I have used this strategy multiple times in my business and it often works. Sometimes I fall short of my goal, but it is very helpful to have a focus. And the reason that I feel so called to share about this process is because I find a lot of my clients and a lot of my community lack focus. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'll explain to you what usually happens. What I find with a lot of entrepreneurs, like business is fucking hard, okay? Let's just put that out there. It is a really big personal journey. It is not necessarily something that comes easily, and it can seriously bring up a lot of fear, a lot of rejection wounds, right? And it can be a challenge, okay? Let's just lay that out on the table. It can also be incredibly rewarding. It can also be a tool to do work that you absolutely love. And if you do it right, if you work with your business instead of putting pressure on your business, it can be a lot easier to call in exactly what you want, okay? So I did this last quarter. I just started doing this again. So when I first started using this technique, it was 2020. And my ex-husband had lost his job and all the pressure was on me to make that money. So I had to get to work. It really forced me to look at my numbers and know my numbers really intimately, which is something that I recommend if you're a business owner, know your numbers, okay? That is something that's super important. There's nothing worse than feeling unprepared for a bill that comes through. There is nothing worse than unexpected payments or charges to your card. And this can all be avoided when you just look at your numbers, your subscriptions, like what is it that you are signed up to pay for? What account is that coming out of, right? And this is an entrepreneurial skill that you need to thrive in business. So if you're listening to this and you're like, Lauren, I need some fucking help, like I'm drowning, I don't know my numbers, and I would really love to get to know them, send me a DM on Facebook or on Instagram. I have a template for you to work in. It's a template that I actually give my Aligned and Magnetic Business Accelerator clients because numbers and finances are such a big part of running a business. And a lot of the time, it's the thing that gets pushed to the back burner. Well, if we're constantly pushing our numbers to the back burner, pushing our money to the back burner, essentially, We don't know what is moving in and out of our accounts, right? We don't know what's moving in and out of our business. And it's really hard to call in more money when you don't even know what number you need, right? Have you ever had the experience where you're like, oh, I just need an extra $1,000 or an extra $2,000, and you get that money, but then you look at your bills and you're like, well, fuck, I should have asked for like 5,000. You know what I mean? So it is given. Whatever you are asking for is what you will get. Now, if you want proof of this, or if you want to maybe just do a little bit of work on your own, what you can do is look at past months. When were you calling in a specific number, and how did that go for you? I remember back when I was first starting my business, I just wanted to make $1,000 to $2,000. Well, that's what I ended up getting because that's what I was calling in. And the other thing too is when we're not focused on something. So I'm going to break this down into two parts. When we're not focused on the number, and then we're not focused on a way in which we can maybe generate the leads or generate relationships or generate momentum to help us get to that number. If we don't have any offerings that we're promoting, or anything that we're focused on in our business, then it's going to be really difficult to actually reach the number. So, in tandem with what I'm talking about today, we also have to work on our frequency and our fears. I find that a lot of people avoid their numbers because they're afraid to look at the numbers. They're afraid to see what's coming in and what's going out. They're afraid to see how much they owe. Now, that's valid. That is so valid. And also, continuously avoiding the numbers is just going to add more anxiety and fear to your situation. So, we need to get to a point where we can, even if you're afraid, still open up the tabs, still open up your account, still open up the things and start looking at the things. The more you avoid, the more you end up staying in this kind of like just avoidance energy around money and not knowing and feeling a little bit frantic. So, what we're going to do today is bring some focus into your manifestations. Now, I need to tell you that this is the first step that I do in Rise Goddess to help you manifest in the way that you were meant to manifest. And it's so much more than that. It is definitely a manifestation journey, but it's also a journey of releasing, right? It's a journey of introspection and a safe space. Now, what happens when we're trying to manifest something without having done any inner work is that there's a bunch of fears that are playing on the back of our brain, right? A bunch of beliefs and thoughts that we grew up with, that like money should be feared and money should be this and money should, I'm not an ATM machine. That's something I heard a lot growing up. Or money doesn't grow on trees, go ask your father. Like, I always believe that we have to go through our experiences to evolve as souls, to be the person that we came here to be. But if we don't voice these things out loud, if we don't process them and look at them, they actually end up ruling your behaviors, right? So remember that anxiety and that fear that I was telling you about? Well, if you don't look at what is playing at the back of your mind, whether you're afraid that you won't live up to other people's expectations of you, or you're afraid that you won't be able to make your monthly bills. I don't know what it is, but if you have fear patterns or even anxiety or scarcity mentality that's all playing at the back of your head, that's going to drive all of the moves that you make. I'm referring specifically to money because I know that a lot of my followers are here to make more money in their business. But this is true for calling in your soulmate partner, right? Like your wife or husband, or just lifelong partner, calling in soulmate clients. It's the same for landing on more podcast interviews or opportunities in the media or whatever it is, like whatever you want. We need to look at the beliefs that are running your mind currently so that we can address them, reprogram them, and observe them as they come up instead of pushing them to the side. Okay. So that is one of the big things. And this is exactly what we cover inside of Rise Goddess. I will talk a little bit more about it at the end of this episode, but I just want to let you know that that is part of the program that I run. And I'm super, super excited to be running it again shortly. So we just finished Q2, okay? So at the time of recording, it is July 4th, and we just ended June 2024. Now, I was in such a scarcity mentality in January and February because we had just moved from Mexico to our house swap, and we were trying to find out where we were going to situate ourselves. And I had so much fear around not being able to afford the lifestyle here. A lot of this fear came from other people telling me that, like, oh, you're going to struggle because you're used to living like a cheap lifestyle. Well, just so anyone's aware, we never lived a cheap lifestyle in Mexico. Like, we were always traveling, eating out, like doing all this shit. So really, like, it hasn't changed that much, but I didn't realize that until I got here and started living and dealing with the shit that kept coming up for me. Let me tell you that I was living in like a constant state of anxiety for 2 months until I addressed the underlying issues. I was freaking out. I was like over analyzing prices for groceries. I was telling Alexis, like, no, don't buy that. It's too expensive. And she is someone who's very free and flowy with money. She could probably use a little bit more intention, but that's just my opinion. Don't tell her I said that. She was starting to feel really like frustrated with my control around money, right? So this is how my fear manifested into reality. And it seriously caused a lot of tension in our relationship that wasn't really fun necessarily to deal with. And she definitely did an amazing job of honoring my process and of being there and supporting me. But it felt really bad for her because we had just gone from being a little bit more loose with money and stuff to me then freaking out. There was literally no reason to freak out. We are not dying. In fact, we've both elevated massively financially. I have gotten back on track, feeling my money flow. I closely met my Q2 goals, and I want to share with you what I did, okay? So after dealing with my underlying money shit, I remembered that a tool that I started using actually in Mexico worked really well for me, and I really enjoyed it. Part of the manifestation process is enjoying the process. If you're trying to manifest money in a way that feels forceful or stressful, or you're just doing it to check off an item on your box, like, that is the wrong way to go about it. Hear me when I say that, please. So we have to make it fun, right? So actually, no, I won't get into that just yet. Here's what I did. My technique is to create mini vision boards. Now, this is actually a process that I also teach inside of Rise Goddess, because it's something that worked so well for me, and I wanted to share it with my students in there. So this is my mini vision board, if you can see if you're watching on YouTube or watching the video somewhere. And I was about $1,400 short of reaching my goal. I had set my goal for Q2 to manifest $20,000, and that's across April, May, and June, because we were moving into an apartment, because I knew we would have some moving associated fees. And I also just really was ready to step into my next level. Now, I remember actually I was having a conversation with my friend Carolina back in February, and we were doing like this manifestation challenge. I wanted to manifest like $20,000 in like a 28-day period. And she was like, do you actually feel like you can do that? And I was like, no, not really. So here's the thing, right? Like, when we're setting a money goal, we have to actually believe that it is attainable. And that's why it's sometimes helpful. Like, I know a lot of people teach that you can jump from like making $0 to like $50,000. If you've never made $50,000 in a short period of time in your life before, it's going to be a massive struggle because you have nothing to back it unless you really, really work hard on your belief, like dedicate a lot of time and energy. But for me, it's simpler to just do the steps, right? Like, to just go step by step. And I actually think that that's a way a lot of people do work, just based on what I know about human design, okay? So what I did was, instead of trying to manifest 20K in 28 days, which felt kind of impossible, even though it's what I wanted. I changed my goal to manifest 20K within a 3-month period of time. Now, when I came up with this goal, I think I kind of just whipped the number out of my butt. Like, I don't actually think that I did a good job of breaking it down, if you will. But what I did was I put the number in the center of my mini vision board. And then I focused on different things that I wanted to be saying by the end of June 2024. I also put on different projects that I want to focus on and complete. And let me just tell you that, like, I didn't manifest everything on this board, but I did do a pretty good job of checking off quite a few things. So I think, like, what I'm really proud of is from moving myself from such a scarcity mentality to really stepping into my power and calling in almost $20,000. Like, that's amazing. I think my final unofficial number, because I still have to like go through all my accounts, and I'm just thinking of one payment I received that's not in here, but my unofficial number is 18,541 and 57 cents across from the beginning of April to the end of June. And as someone who went through a really big transition and really went through challenges in my identity and just really had to climb my way back to who I am. And it was all perfect. Like, it's literally all written out in my freaking astrology chart. It's crazy, mind blowing. Like, I was just looking at it the other day and I'm like, yep, that's what I went through. And it was all divine, So I know that there's a bigger purpose for it. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it feels really disheartening and disempowering when you're not making the amount of money that you used to make, let alone struggling to pay your bills. And so in those like 2 to 3 year period, I definitely had months where I was making like $7,000, $8,000, but I still didn't feel like I was back to myself. I didn't feel like I had necessarily control over my money. It was more so like I was still running on that fear loop, and I was afraid of losing the money that I had made and afraid of not keeping that consistency over time, right? I actually caught myself experiencing that toward the end of this month as well. And then I remembered, like, Lauren, look back at your goal, look back at the goal that you set for yourself, and look at how far you came. So that's why this morning I started my day with just looking at the number that I ended up with after those 3 months and realizing like how freaking close I got. You know what I mean? And I think this is a really important part of this whole process is that focus. And this is what I see so many entrepreneurs struggling with because they get mid-launch or mid-offer and they realize no one's clicking, no one's interested, no one's reaching out, and they decide they're going to throw in the towel. Well, if you throw in the towel, then you literally have zero chances of getting the result that you want. Not only that, but a lot of people aren't actually defining the results that they want. So in human design, we have what's called a specific manifester or a non-specific manifester. And I don't mean manifestor the energy type. I mean like how you are designed to call in your desires. Are you designed to get super crystal clear on what it is that you want? Or are you designed to give the universe a menu of options to give you? I'm a non-specific manifester. I also go through all of this in Rise Goddess to help you learn about what your human design is telling you and how you can manifest more powerfully. And so, as a non specific manifester, if I get too narrow, I stress myself out. Like, if I'm too focused, I notice it's something that doesn't really work for me. I get too like zoned in and I need to have a little bit more option. I need to have a little bit more flow. So now what I do is like whenever I'm creating these boards, I give the universe or myself a menu of options. Like, here's some things that you can work on. Here's a range of money that I would like to make. So for Q3, I'm kind of scared, I don't know, to mention this because there's always like this thought at the back of my mind of like, oh, what if you don't make it happen? But for the sake of learning, I'm going to share it with you anyway. So my Q3 goal for July to September is $28,000. Now, I might fall short, I might not, who knows? And then I have a program, actually a bundle and other options of ways in which I can work with people. So having that focus is so, so important. Now, How did I get to $28,000? I didn't just pull that number from my butt. So I actually went through and I averaged out, I created a budget for myself first and foremost. I averaged out the last 3 months of groceries, transportation, eating out, dog necessities, and all of that stuff. And then I looked at all of my bills, my business bills, my house, like home situationship, and I added those averages that I just told you about. So I added an average for groceries, for eating out, for transportation, etc. And then I also beefed it up with things that I would like to see. So I would like to start contributing a bit more to my savings. I would also like to start getting massages more frequently. So I added that in to give it a little bit more padding. Okay. So then I got my monthly budget. Now, I think this is where a lot of people are going, maybe not necessarily wrong, but they're not spending enough time knowing exactly what numbers you need to receive every single month. And so you're not actually asking for the thing that you want and need. And or you do know the amount of money that you need to bring in, but it might be segregated. Like it might be like, oh, for my business, I need this much money to maintain my expenses. For groceries, I need this much. My mortgage is this month. So you're not seeing the whole picture. And then you don't know what the whole number is that you need to be asking for. That means that usually what ends up happening here is you end up manifesting only what you need for bills and you don't have enough to pay for like the massage that you want, for example, or for a course that you want to take. Once I beefed up and had my monthly number, then I added additional expenses. I need to renew my ICF credential. I also want to join a PCC training course in October. So I added the number for that. Alexis is going to Japan. I'm really hoping that I can join her and her friends. So I added the flight ticket to Japan on there. I added a line of credit that I need to pay off by September. And I also added a couple of other things that I want to focus on. So that is how I got to my full number. When I was living in Mexico, I was living in such a scarcity mentality because I was going through so much inner healing and I had so much evidence that, like, you can't do it. You're a fraud. You can't make it happen. You don't know what you're talking about. Even though I do and have, like, definitely a track record of success with my clients, I just felt like these feelings were coming because my numbers weren't necessarily reflecting what I deem as successful in my head. It's funny how we draw these conclusions about ourselves out of random things. And it's not from nowhere, it's usually from some sort of belief that you have. But that's why it's so important to look at these things. And I was in such a scarcity mentality in Mexico that I was like, I just want to make the bare minimum. I just want to be able to cover my business expenses and contribute to groceries, right? Like that's the mentality that I was in for a really long time. And now what I'm shifting into is like, bitch, like this girl needs more than just the bare minimum. I want to go to Japan. I want to have my biweekly massages. I want to pay off my leveraged money or line of credit. I want to invest in other things. I want to invest in myself, in my business, right? And I'm giving myself permission again to really step into that next level energy. And I understand if not everybody is there. If you're not there yet, that's okay. Work on manifesting the bare minimum, but don't be like, oh, $200 for groceries when groceries actually are going to cost you like $1,000. You know what I mean? We need to really look at the real numbers. Like, what are you really spending on? What is going to give you peace of mind so that you're not looking at your bank account with your gut dropping every single day? Okay. So this is my little mini vision board that has served me really, really well. The reason this serves me so well is I find that my big vision board is usually for the year or a couple years. I actually have a vision board on my Mac right now that is for 5 years. And that's great. But then we need to be able to break that down into something that we can easily digest and work toward. And what I find with a lot of my clients who, I don't know if it's like ADHD or like shiny penny syndrome, but a lot of us get distracted. And so when we have something to remind us of, this is what I'm working on, this is where I'm headed, it's only for 3 months, right? You're not committing to the full year, only 3 months. If after 3 months you want to change and do something else, go for it. But this is what I'm doing for 3 months. You would be so amazed to see what can happen in 3 months when you stay committed to your goal, to the vision, to the process. Like I said, Rise Goddess is my 10-week program to really awaken you to your potential, to unleash the goddess within yourself. When I picture this program, I really think of empowering women to be who they came here to be and to be powerful, to stand in their power, to let go of what's not serving them. I know so many women who are still doing things that they don't want to be doing because they think they have to do it or they should do it, right? A lot of women are making decisions with their mind, and a lot of those decisions come from a place of should or guilt. That is not how we step into our power. So, Rise Goddess is a process. It is a 10-week process, and the results that my clients have experienced are absolutely fucking phenomenal. They walk away with more clarity in who they are and what they want, more confidence in themselves, because this is an experiential learning space. It's a safe space, and it's also experiential learning. There's a lot of opportunity to practice speaking your truth. And so a lot of women who come who are like afraid to share what's on their heart or afraid to speak in public walk away feeling so much more confident because they get that practice within the space. Connection and sisterhood, that is like a really big thing. This is such a beautiful space to be a part of because everyone is lifting each other up and we're all focusing on improving ourselves, being the best version of ourselves that we can be. We are focusing on releasing old patterns, old behaviors, old beliefs, old things that don't serve us, and really stepping into our inner goddess, stepping into who we were meant to be. This is my most popular program. This is the program that people continuously come back to me and say, Lauren, I love that program. I love that program. You should run that program again. And I have to be honest with you, like it always has to be divine timing for this program because I mean, I believe that for any program, but particularly for this one because it's so focused on the feminine. It's so focused on divine energy. And I co created this program with the universe. I had a vision of running this space after participating in a sisterhood myself and gaining so much value. The investment was significantly different as well, but it was so worth it. So, what I've done is I've created a similar space, but really focused it on something that you can walk away with very tangibly. I focused it on the most important topics and introspective themes that you need to work on in order to get to the other end of this feeling confident, feeling powerful, and feeling sure of yourself and your path forward and your connection with the universe. So, this is a group that's very spiritual in nature. If you have struggled to feel your connection with the universe, or you're not really sure if you have that connection, this would be a really great space to explore that. It's very uplifting. It's very beautiful. I absolutely love this space if you can't tell. If you have any questions, if you want to know if this is the right space for you, you can DM me on Instagram. If you want to dip your toe in the water to see if this is a good fit for you, then I recommend you start in the Awaken the Goddess Within mini course. It's called a mini course, but it's really like a full course because it's got Awaken the Goddess Within, the Art of Surrender, which is going to teach you how to focus on your manifestation and what you want, but let go of control of how it comes to you. This is like such a key part of the manifestation process that people really struggle with, that women particularly struggle with. And that's going to be really helpful. So, this is all designed to help you get more of what you want and to live a full life that you absolutely love. So, if any of this resonates with you, then you're going to find your place inside of one of these options. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really hope that you try this mini vision board technique that I outlined today. And if not creating a mini vision board, I hope you at least give yourself the time and space to get clear on what it really is that you want to manifest within the next 1 to 3 months. If you have success with this, or if you like the idea, please DM me. I would love to hear from you. The more that I hear from my audience, the happier I feel about creating these episodes. I will see you in the next episode. I love you, sending you waves of abundance. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast today. If you like what you heard, I would love it if you left a review. If you like my vibe, come and hang with me in my Facebook or Telegram group. I'll drop the link to my email list below where you can get instant access. Make sure you check the show notes for any other links that I mentioned today. And until next time, I'm sending you waves of abundance.